So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining this talk, especially so early in the morning. My name is Emmanuel Bouillon, and I'm going to discuss with you today some security issues that you might have to cope with when dealing with federated identity. And more precisely, I'm going to discuss a specific type of federated identity, which is a SAML-based federated identity. So first, I'm an InfoSec guy, and more importantly, everything that I'm going to say today expresses only my own views, and especially do not involve any of my previous, current, and future employers. And everything is provided for educational purpose only. Okay, so that being said, here is the outline of this presentation. It's made of 6 parts. First, an introduction, what is it about and why should we care? In the second part, I'm going to discuss what is the problem we are trying to solve and how have we been doing it up to now. And then in the third part, I'm going to introduce some, not all, but some of the standards and specifications around the federated entity area. And I'm just going to give the minimum material so that everybody will have in mind what is needed to take the most of the rest of the presentation. And the rest of the presentation is going to be made of 2 parts. One is how can we adapt classical web application scanner in order to have them to better cope with the SAML-based, SAML-protected web applications. And in this part, I'm going to illustrate how the type of results that these kind of tools can provide. And in the last part, I'm going to present and to discuss some security considerations and issues that we need to have in mind prior considering joining or creating such a federation. And finally, a conclusion. So let's get started. So SAML stands for Security Assertion Markup Language, and this talk is about SAML token and claims-based identity and access management. So I'm going to take a radically low-level approach of this protocol. That means I'm not going to discuss the API provided to developers in order to implement this kind of protocol. Maybe you're familiar with Windows Identity Foundation API, which is the .NET API that allows developers to somehow transparently integrate SAML protocols in their applications. So I'm not going to use this kind of level of abstraction, but I'm just going to look at the lowest level of those protocols. And also, this presentation is not about a consistent and formal study of every involved standards. I'm just going to cursorily introduce 2 of them, but you'll see that that's enough to get some interesting results. So basically, the approach that I've been using is some sort of standards reverse engineering. Basically, find vulnerabilities and then go back into the specification and see why something got wrong. So what are going to be the takeaways of this presentation? First, tools, adapted tools in order to have classical web application scanners to better cope with SAML-protected web applications. Then I'm going to demonstrate an assumption, which is that involved standards can be read as an attempt to circumvent the same origin policy. I'm going to show a demonstration about that. And finally, some important security considerations that you might have in mind before joining or creating such a federation. So why should you care? The thing is that the protocol and specification I'm going to discuss in this presentation are getting more and more prevalent. Actually, many influential major industrial players are currently pursuing the development of SAML-based protocol to achieve federated identity management. And also, it's support of the federation that makes SAML particularly suitable for cloud deployment. That's why it's getting ubiquitous. So whether you like it or not, it's coming your way. And the last point is that depending on the context of deployment you're considering, being it business to business, banking, government for, let's say, tax payment, for instance, this kind of deployment and the associated security issues might entail some very thorny contractual, legal, and even privacy issues. That's why it's important to take care of that. So now, where do we come from? What is the main problem that this kind of standards tries to solve? Let's say that the single sign-on solution or issue within a single domain has been solved now for a while. So initial solution for this single sign-on problem in a single domain were very efficient from an administrator point of view, but maybe not that satisfactory from a security point of view. Maybe some of you still have in mind the Sun Yellow Page solutions and the NIS system, for instance. So that was very interesting from an administrator point of view, but maybe not that interesting from a security point of view. So, but today, this problem has been solved by more robust protocols like Kerberos, for instance. Kerberos is a protocol you use very commonly to solve the single sign-on issue within a single domain. Typically, that's what you're using if you're using Active Directory environment. The thing is that now we need to solve this single sign-on solution, but between organizations, between different domains. And that's typically what SAML tries to solve. So the goal is to have a user and administrator-friendly cross-organization boundaries single sign-on. So here I'm going to focus on web applications. So that needs to be secure, scalable, easy to manage, and ideally taking care of privacy and anonymity issues. So this problem is not new, and of course previous solutions has already been deployed. Usually these solutions rely either on duplicating user accounts more or less intelligently, or by establishing trust relationships between security domains, typically Kerberos trust relationships between Active Directory domains, be it unilateral or bidirectional trust relationships. And of course, these type of solutions come up with some drawbacks, and that's this kind of drawbacks that SAML tries to solve and to tackle. And also regarding the problem of privacy and anonymity, some previous standards have been defined but never really been deployed nor widely adopted. So what do we need to know about federated identity standards? So in this party, I'm just going to give a very, very high-level view of some of the involved standards around federated identity. So here you have a diagram that shows the complete ecosystems of specification around federated identity. As you can see, they are quite numerous, and most of them are supported by an organization called OASIS, the OASIS Consortium, which OASIS stands for Organization for the Advancement of Structured Information Standards. So I'm not going to discuss all of them, but just to introduce two of them. So first, the SAML specification, which in fact it's a set of specification in itself. And secondly, the WS Federation specification, which basically describes how to orchestrate flows in order to achieve this multi-domain single sign-on solution. So let's start with SAML. SAML stands for Security Assertion Markup Language, and basically it consists of building stone components which, once put together, allow a given number of use cases to be supported. And these components primarily allow the transfer of identity information like authorization, attributes, and so forth between autonomous organizations that have an established trust relationship. That's the primary goal of SAML. And there is also something you need to know if you start looking at this kind of specification and document. That's the fact that there are some terms which have a specific definition in this context, so it's better to know their definition. So basically you have SAML assertions, SAML protocol, bindings, and profile. So SAML assertions, I'm going to go back to that later, but typically it's a signed XML document which contains statements about a principal, a user, for instance, that a given asserting party claims to be true. SAML protocol are basically the description of request and response that are needed in order to obtain or to submit a SAML assertion. And SAML bindings are the mapping between SAML protocols and other layer of transport protocol. Like typically you have bindings for SAML and SOAP. You have the HTTP redirect binding and the HTTP post binding. And finally, you have what they called SAML profiles, which basically is the combination of assertions, protocol, and bindings in order to support a given number of use cases or federated scenarios. So within the standard, there are several profiles defined, like the web browser SSO profile or the single logout profile. I'm just going to mention two of them during this talk. First, the web browser SSO profile, because that's really the most common use case, the most widely used use case regarding SAML specification. And the second one is identity provider discoverability profile. I'm going to mention this one because actually it is prone to some security issue. So what are SAML assertions? So as I said, a SAML assertion is a signed XML document containing claims or attributes about a user. So, and it's a set of claims contained in a SAML assertions that define the identity in regard to the what we call the relying parties. That means, let's say, the web application. So, and what you need to have in mind also is that these claims do not need to be distinctive for this user. It doesn't have to be a login name, for instance, or things like that. It can just be a statement like, yes, this user has paid its monthly fee for the public library, or yes, this user is over 21. So here is how it looks like. So it's with no surprise, it's a signed XML document which follows the XML digital signature standard. So you get information regarding the issuer, regarding the signature, how it has been computed, etc. You get information about the subject, and more interestingly, you get the information about the attributes contained within this SAML assertion. And typically in the enterprise use case, these attributes are obtained from an enterprise directory. That can be a group membership, yes, this user has this role in my organization, or yes, this user has this email address in my organization. And as you can see above, there is also some specific attributes that can be of interest, like the audience attribute. So the audience attribute is basically the statement that says for which relying party this SAML assertion has been made of. So that's interesting because that allows to prevent some SAML reuse attack. But for this to be effective, it needs to be taken into account by the relying party side of the implementation. And as we'll see later, it's not always the case. Some implementations do not verify that, and that's obviously a security issue. So how is SAML used? SAML is standard-based, so widely supported and supposedly interoperable between implementations. And the underlying standards include XML encryption, XML digital signatures, and X509 certificates. It heavily relies on HTTP for conveying the SAML assertion through the network, so that easily goes through firewall. There are several types of deployment. It can be deployed in a local network. It doesn't have to be in a federated environment. It supports branch offices deployment. It allows remote users to access the corporate network. But also, and more importantly, it supports federation and the federated scenario, and that's I'm going to discuss that more into more detail later. And so, basically, the idea is to have a nice, neat cross-domain single sign-on solution, so that users, our beloved users, are happy with their experience. So, how does it work here? I'm going to focus on the web browser SSO profile. Basically, it's a 4-steps process. First, you have your user who requests access to a claims-aware web application, and at this request do not contain any SAML assertion. The web application is going to redirect the web browser to the user.